Seeing as how it's 6:30, we will call the Village of Oregon Plan Commission meeting to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Sure, I will just let you know that Schnelly and Majeski are out tonight with an excused absence. So with that, Palda?
Here.
Molzon?
Here.
Smithback?
Here.
Meyer?
Here.
Marr?
Here.
Glish?
Here.
Here.
Bano? All right, thanks.
Thank you. Moving on, approval of the August 4th meeting minutes. They're in your packet. Anybody have any questions and comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move, John.
Motion by Randy, second
Second.
by Larry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public appearances. This is the opportunity for anybody, for all those people in the audience that might want to come up and speak. You have the opportunity to do that. Anybody, I'm not gonna go through the full spiel, you've all been here before. Anybody? All right, thank you. Keep moving on. Next item on the agenda. Item B, for information only, the updated site plan and planning commission changes incorporated for the new public library at 200 North Alpine Parkway, submitted by the Oregon Public Library Board, JSD Engineering, and OPN Architects.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jennifer Way, I'm the library director, and Brett Rottinghouse from OPN Architects is here. For those of you that were here last month, you approved the site plan for the new library with some contingencies and some constructive feedback. So we're just here tonight to report on the feedback that you provided and to show that we've taken that and responded to that. So I'm going to let Brett, do you mind covering some of those items that we've adopted into the plan?
So some of the things that we talked about was widening that drive aisle for the book drop. We did that. Another one was the entrance, that it was kind of an off axis entrance walk path there. So we trued that up so that it was more circular in nature and kind of matched the look of the rest of the plan, where it was pretty symmetrical. So that was the one piece that wasn't symmetrical there, so we corrected that and got that in there as well.
Do you want to talk about the window canopies?
Yeah, yep. So next we were, we started looking at some of the architectural elements. There was the comment about bringing that front entrance canopy all the way across the front of the building. So we did that and broke it up over just the window bays across the entire front of the building to help, I guess, draw that line all the way across the front of the building. So I think as you go through the next couple slides, here is where you see it starts on the right. In the middle is the main entrance, and then it really works its way both directions over the different windows there. So here's, as you're coming around the south edge of the building, and then I believe the next rendering shows how that canopy looks at a closer up view. So it does kick moisture away from the building, and then there's a little lip on the front there to help catch it and then disperse it off the canopy there. I think with the depth of those canopies also will help quite a bit with solar on that west side of the building. That was one of the reasons we decided to keep those as deep as that main entrance. We did look at a reduced depth on that, but by keeping it as deep as that main entranceway really helped with some of the solar concerns on the west side of the building. And then there was the other comment about exploring masonry for the tan wood look material. We currently do have that in our documents as a add alternate for that to be masonry. I've told Randy multiple times, you're not gonna hear any fighting from me to get some masonry on the building. I think the building would want that. It really comes down to whether we can afford it or not. So we're exploring that. We would love to see that happen. We really would. We think it would be a great way to sort of ground the building into the site. So.
And then I think there were just a couple other comments that were made, and I just want to address that those were also incorporated. One suggestion from John Bano was to make sure we added dashed lines to the plan to show future building expansion locations. So the site plan in your packet today does reflect the locations where we are anticipating future expansion of the building would go. And the future expansion of the parking lot was already dashed in prior to that comment, so that is showing on the left side of the plan. There was also a suggestion about one of the tree species along Alpine Parkway, and that be substituted with a different species to make sure it didn't block sight lines. And so that comment was also taken and will be updated on the landscaping plan. And then I think the final comment that I recall was the patio area off the second floor level, about if we use that as a patio area, that there should be some shading over top of that. We decided that if that area is developed, it would just be a green roof alternate. So we are now focusing the patio seating to the back side of the building for a variety of reasons. So that would just be a green roof area if that alternate's selected. Are there any comments on any of the responses we've made to your feedback or your contingencies? I should address that the fire department approval was also made on the plan since our last meeting here.
Very good, thank you. Anybody have any comments? I think that you've done a wonderful job of responding to what we had said, and I appreciate that. Anybody else?
I'll just say the canopies are good. I think that was a nice addition. And Brett, your reference to, there's a couple businesses that we're sort of talking to potentially on some masonry stuff. We'll see what works out, but hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed on something.
Yeah, I really like what the awnings did for the building. I think it tied it together well. No doubt at all they will prevent a lot of solar gain in the high summer sun, the low winter sun that should allow to enter, and they're plenty deep enough to do that. As I looked at this particular shot of the corner, it just occurred to me that the heights and the lengths of that vertical material, I don't know what the limitations are, if that's something that comes in a 16 or 20 foot length, whether or not you might want a horizontal band in there, more from a material aspect than for an aesthetic aspect, because trying to seam materials there, it doesn't look good.
So we do have, it's a pretty minimal seam. It's just really a flashing, peeks out behind that batten. It's more of a hairline seam that we're trying to achieve there. So we've worked through those details. But yeah, the goal is, you might start to see them in the render. No, they're not really showing up too much there. But we do have those. Oh yeah, yep, you kind of do there. You see the hairline that are running horizontal there. That's really what we're trying to go for. The other way of doing that is running a bold trim piece that you flash over. But really what we were trying to do is keep that verticality with that pattern, and once you introduce that other band, it really started to break the building up in a way that we weren't really going for that.
No, the long vertical lines are fine. It was just
right. Yep.
Limitations of the materials and expansion and contraction and things like that.
Yep, exactly.
Anybody else? Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for coming in and giving us an update.
Thank you for the constructive criticism. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Moving on, item 6, communications miscellaneous business, we have none. Item 7 is unfinished business, we have none. Item 8, new business. Item A, public hearing to discuss and consider recommendation to the village board for a general development plan for multifamily apartment building at 870, 880 North Main Street, the Erfurth Auto site of Erfurth Auto site. The applicant is Adam Poyle of Accent Management. At this time, I will open the public hearing, and Elise, turn the tables to you.
Right, thanks. It's been a long time coming on this project. I'm excited to get to this point and get Adam, rolling here to be able to start construction when all the stars align. So he has submitted both his GDP and SIP tonight. We have a couple outstanding comments from the engineer, pretty minor stuff. We got that pretty late last week, so Quam Engineering that Adam has on his team have not had a chance to respond, so we can kind of go through a couple of those, but otherwise I think those can be wrapped up at a staff level. So this is plan development zoning with our MR8 multifamily zoning underlying. This building would have 49 units, surface and underground parking. It's 3 stories tall, above ground, just shy of 39 feet, and it's a mix of studio through 3-bedroom units. We talked a bit about that landscape patio space. I think he's come back a few times with some concept plans, so you all, that should look familiar. Just a side note, the TIF grant has been approved, and we're working through all the agreements with the village attorney, but that's a great asset to this project to get it going. So the exceptions here on the second page of the memo is to go through. So the first one is a lighting flexibility. Typically our code only allows up to half a foot candle of bleed over onto an adjacent property. So right now the lighting that's in the parking lot along his southern side there is at the highest point is 2.4 foot candles over the property line. It does just abut the Quick Trip and then the parking lot for the other multifamily building that's right behind Quick Trip, and then it quickly cuts back down to 1.5, pretty much within those other parking spaces for that apartment building. So that's one exception that's laid out here. Height flexibility, again, we're at 39 feet with the flat roof, so typically it'd only have 35 feet allowed in the district. The landscape surface ratio, typically we need require a maximum of 50% impervious. This is going to be 61.5%. Probably right now, I would say I would say close to 100% of the site is impervious.
Yeah, correct.
With the buildings and
It's
the
gravel.
compacted gravel there. So I think this will be an improvement in terms of water being able to get through to the ground there. Density, this is standard flexibility for these multifamily buildings, because right now the code only allows 8 dwelling units per acre. This is about 31.2 with those 49 units on the site. And then lastly, the paved surface setback along that south property line where those where that light encroachment is to things. There is some landscaping between the parking lots, but it's about 2 feet or so from the pavement to that south property line. So typically we have a 5-foot side yard setback for the pavement. So my conditions, for the GDP are just, one thing is that there is a CSM to combine these 2 lots that still needs to be done. I'm guessing Clom's, working on that with their survey.
Yeah, they're about a month out on that is what I was told today.
Yeah. So the GDP approval, and obviously construction, all those other things will kind of hang in limbo if it's approved until the CSM also gets approved and recorded to combine those 2 parcels, wrapping up some of the village engineer comments, and then and Adam, maybe you know this off the top of your head, but the number of underground parking spaces wasn't listed on the plan, and so just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, we had a number earlier that I gotta dig that up. I'm gonna refine it a little bit by changing the mechanical areas. The trash area's gotta get a little bit bigger. There's some bike storage, and then we're gonna add some storage units down there. But I can pretty well control that number based on how many storage units we add.
Yeah, so
It was high enough. It was
Okay.
actually higher than people wanted at the. at
So
the village
you're gonna
council or village board, yeah.
exceed the requirement here, so
Yeah.
we require about 74 spaces total between the 2 levels, so that'd be something that I'd kind of check up on later. So we can get into this a bit with the SIP, but I think for the most part, the engineer's comments were, there were a lot of questions about stormwater management, and I don't know, I talked today, and I think the plan from Quam was that stormwater management plan would be submitted with the other kind of
Final plans.
yeah, final plans and building permits. They also had a question about that south property line. Maybe Jeff, if you could just go to the site plan. So that parking lot there, maybe page 24 of the packet there.
At
Just
least,
that,
not to confuse this, but do we want to just, since the thing that's on the agenda right now is the GDP.
Yeah, we can.
Do we want to do the SIP stuff later?
Sure.
So that we're not kind of confusing?
Yeah,
Are
the
there
only
any-
thing I was gonna say, it just kind of ties, I guess, in with that paved
Oh.
surface setback, is that, just making sure that we don't have cars on those southern parking spaces that are parking all the way up on the,
Curb.
making sure there's a curb or a curb stop so that, the front end of vehicles isn't, you know, interfering with that landscaping and also kind of bleeding over across the property lines. So that was a outstanding comment, that, issue, but yeah, let's tackle the GDP items first, and then we can get into the site plan.
Adam, do you have anything to add? We'll move on to petitioner comments.
No, I don't think so. If anybody has any concerns or comments, I guess I'd respond to that. On the lighting, I think I can have them probably tighten that up a little bit. I would hope so, if they can.
Well, and I mean, honestly, the difference between like 2.4-foot candle and 0.5-foot candle, I don't know how much you'd be able to discern that on a regular basis.
No, it looks like it goes in at that level for less than 10 feet or whatever.
Correct.
Right.
So-
Yeah.
Usually the bleed off on that, you're using LED fixtures.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually it starts to really
Yeah,
cut
the
off.
plan, I'm trying to figure out what page that was on. I will say we have not heard anything from any neighbors, you know, the public hearings, everybody
did-
got a letter.
I
You
I did speak to the owner of the apartment complex today.
Okay,
Just wanted to have a few questions about the storm sewer, or the
Okay.
stormwater.
okay. But I'm not sure they caught on to the lighting thing, but yeah, it
Where's the
looks like it's down to half-foot candle or 1-foot candle.
What page is that?
Page 30 of the packet.
Okay.
I think it goes down pretty quick there. Maybe 5-10 feet into the
Yeah,
parking
so
lot.
let's pick a spot here. I mean, yeah, this is less than it's at less than 1 through most of this.
Yeah, about 10 feet.
And then here's
It's probably just because
here's the
there's a
parking
pole
lot.
right there at that little
Right.
landscaped
Yeah.
island, so.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see that probably affecting the apartments next door.
No, if anything, it's gonna be nice, cause that's probably a dark corner back there in the parking lot, so.
Yeah.
But majority of this is 0.1. The only time you start to deviate is when you start to get right around the base of this. Right around here, goes from,
Yeah, that pole.
and the maximum there is 1.0, so it's.
All right. Anybody from the public like to make any comments? Seeing none, we will open this up to the plan commission. Anybody have anything, we've seen this before, it's just kind of the details of it. Anybody have any questions, comments?
I have a couple of questions, but I think they're more SIP related. I don't know if you want me to ask them now or wait.
If you think they're if they're.
I'm not sure really.
Well,
what
then
they're-
go ahead and ask.
All right, so, my first question is, trash collection. Can you walk me through what would be the process to collect the trash? Which way is the vehicle gonna come in, turn, and what are they gonna do?
Boy, let me remember that here. So the trash will be in a trash room in the basement,
Right,
so that's enclosed. And,
It's gotta be the same way that they serve, we went through this when we did the Jefferson Crossing. So they're located at the bottom of the drive,
Correct.
garage entrance. The truck pulls down, they pull them out, dump them, wheel them back in, and then the truck would then back up this, just like it does at Jefferson Crossing.
right, and into that kind of hammerhead.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep,
So,
exactly.
so, and that's what I assumed, but I wanted to
Yeah.
check with you that that's been thought out. So, where are you gonna put snow?
it's probably a little tight, but right where Jeff's moving the hand is one spot. We'll have a little bit of space, in the front part of the parking lot. I don't think I'm supposed to put it in the basin itself, but I think there's a couple conifers in the southwest portion, just off the parking spots there. There'll be a little bit of space there. I do believe that we can probably, in the winter, if we have to, sacrifice a couple of parking spots.
Okay, my concern is that hammerhead would fill up with snow, and then all of a sudden, what is this big trash vehicle gonna do for for turnaround. So I just wanna make sure that that
Got it.
is thought out. And then looking at the elevations, your drainage looks like it's going to the east. You've got, it looks like, storm sewer, just making sure that the amount of flow that's happening, that's going to the apartments is not gonna be an issue, long-term.
To the existing apartments?
Correct.
Yeah, that was a question I fielded today from the owner of that, and if you can see, here are the apartments right here. Oops. And this actually is collected here and is piped out to, it's an existing, regional detention pond out there. So they treat it, and then that treated stormwater goes into here, so, I confirmed with him that really no stormwater is gonna go from this site onto his property.
Okay, yeah, I just concerned if we have a high storm event that we don't have issues.
Yes, that's always
So
Yeah.
they,
Wait and
I mean,
see.
right now, there's no protection whatsoever, so I'm sure it probably occurs right now in a heavy event.
we did consider the runoff from the sites to the north, and then on that basin, in talking to the engineer today, we're planning on adding an overspill, so there'd be a spot in the, I guess it'd be the southeast corner there, which sends it towards that right of way. And that's where they thought that would be the best spot to make sure that in the event that does overflow, it doesn't send it to the apartments. There's a
Yeah.
guided place that is, not going directly towards the existing apartments.
Okay.
Anybody else? I've just got two suggestions. One of the things that you can do with the lights to help mitigate that is to take those poles and instead of having them at the nose of the parking stall, move them up towards the drive aisle itself. It's not much, but any distance you can put them closer to the drive aisle pulls them further off of the neighbor's property, which again, I don't think is gonna be an issue at this location, but it does help and minimizes any overlap. The second thing is, and I don't know what the village's appetite is for this, but in the past, where you have this worry about parking stalls close to a property line and overhanging and that kind of thing, go to a 16-foot stall and allow for the green space of that 2 feet that you're shortening up the stall to be maintained there. People pull in until their wheels hit the curb. So by shortening that stall up to 16 feet, but yet still having 18 feet of space, you are still allowing the requirement of the code to be met, but you're not pulling, unless you're gonna jump a curb, you're not gonna have people having their vehicle on the neighbor's property. So
Okay.
that would be a suggestion I would make that I've used in the past, but I don't know if that's something that,
It would be a deviation from our design standards. I think we have a minimum of 18 feet. But I know what you're saying.
it's a gray area, cause
It's
you
a-
still have the 18
you-
feet, it's just,
Yeah,
Curb
the
stop.
overhang.
Curb overhang,
Yeah.
right.
At 16.
yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, I think normally when you're looking at overhang, 2 feet is, 2 to 3 feet is kinda considered, but, yeah, I think either way.
Yeah, were you talking about maybe just putting in a curb there or curb stops on the?
Yep, the curb's fine.
You know, if you put in a curb stop, then the guy that snowplows hates you.
Oh,
And
the
then-
curb itself, the stop, probably
Yeah.
not, yeah.
Yeah, so, anybody else have any comments, questions? We've seen this before, seems like he's listened to what we've suggested, it seems like a good project, a good use. I think the compromises are well justified. So seeing no more comments, I'll close the public hearing. And we will move on to discussion and possible recommendation to the village board regarding the GDP for the multifamily apartment building at 870, 880 North Main Street. Anybody have questions, comments, or I'll take a motion?
I'll make that motion that we recommend the village board approval of this.
Contingent upon the recommendation or information from the consultants?
Yes.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Moving on to item B, review and possible approval of the SIP for Adam Coyle at Accent Management LLC at 87880 North Main Street. Elise, you have anything additional you want to add now?
Okay, I think we covered, let me just get back to the engineer's comments. Curb, the stormwater, plan sounds like that could be addressed with
Yep.
the final
Yep,
plan
that
set.
was-
And the light, yeah, I think the only other outstanding things was, providing the pole height information for the light poles in the parking lot.
Okay.
And then just confirming the number of vehicle parking spaces
Yep.
down under the building, and then as well as the bicycle parking. I don't think that was shown on the plan, so we require 10% of the total number of vehicle spaces to be provided with bike parking. I know you did some underground bike parking at your
Yep.
other apartments too, so just, make sure that's noted, or you can include that in a memo with the updated plans when I get those, but those are my only outstanding things to point out.
Okay. Anybody have any additional questions, comments? Pretty straightforward. I'd entertain a motion to approve contingent upon final approval on the items Elise listed and any of the outstanding items we may have suggested here earlier.
So move.
Jinx?
Rock, paper, scissors?
Fight Coke. Ginger's Fight Coke.
So I will take, I will take Patrick as the motion and Scott as the second, is that fair? Good. All right.
I'll give you the next one.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries, congratulations.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate all the help along the way.
It's great.
Getting close.
Getting real close. That'd be nice. That'd be a nice, change over there.
Moving on to item 9, the Director of Community Development Report, status of development projects. Anyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Things are happening.
Okay, all right. And item B would be the upcoming meeting dates. I know that there's a long list here. Lisa, you kind of want to walk us through which?
Sure, so just giving you all the remaining meeting dates for the rest of 22, and then Joy and I took a look at our 23 calendar just to make sure we didn't have conflicts with elections, holidays, things like that. So for every meeting, we are the first Thursday of the month except for April because of the election and just the timing of getting packets out, getting rooms set up between the election and the board meeting. So just saving those dates. If you know ahead of time that you're gonna be unavailable, please let either Joy or myself know, just so we can make sure we have a quorum if needed. A couple of just side things that I forgot to put on here. There's a CSM that I neglected to include in this agenda. I actually got it the day before our last planning commission meeting, so I wasn't able to get it on the agenda, but it's a CSM on Cypress Way, combination of 2 large lots that they want to build a house in the middle, so the family owns both lots. That was oversight on my part, I just forgot to put it on the agenda, so those don't require public hearing. I was gonna send it to the board anyway. We've seen them before. I think we just approved one on Alpine Parkway in maybe June or July, so if y'all are okay, we'll include that as an FYI item on your next packet so you can see where that was, but I'll just plan on keeping that on the village board agenda for September 12th, so I don't slow down their process of getting that.
Anybody have
approved.
issue with a single-family home on 2 lots? I don't know.
Okay.
They still have to abide by the same setbacks under the new
Right,
lot.
they'll just
and-
have real wide, side yard setbacks.
Yeah.
And so, the other, thing to note here is our 249 North Main Street Community Engagement Survey, Workshop, Due Diligence. That report will be presented by Vanderwall, at the village board meeting on October 3rd. So I just handed in all the surveys that we received. We are just about over 400 surveys, back out of maybe 1,500 that we mailed out,
Good.
so that's pretty good response rate. So those will be, summarized, and then that will be presented to the board. So if you're interested in hearing that, you can look at the packet, come to the meeting, listen to the recording, and then I'll probably share that also as an FYI in your October 6th packet. Otherwise, our October 6th meeting, we'll have the Viridian, remainder of Mary Hill, that north end of the village, their preliminary plat, and then their GDP / SIP as well for that neighborhood with a phasing plan included. So they'll submit next week. So I haven't seen the phasing plan myself yet, but I think generally they'll be working west to east.
Will we do the GDP before we do a rezone on that, or?
Well, the GDP is the rezone, so it would be rezoning to
We'll
plan
do-
development. They will
we'll
have
do the rezone
multiple.
First, then we'll do a GDP on it, okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, they'll be building off of 3 different housing, districts. So 2 of the single family, and then 1 of the duplex zoning district 2, with a couple exceptions, mostly on setbacks, because of their narrow lots. But Greg and I did get to go out to
Oh, yeah.
Fitchburg and Verona, to a couple of their neighborhoods last week. So that was good. We got to walk through a couple of the homes and
Is he a
see
believer?
that. I'll leave that up to him to decide, but I think it was helpful for him to see in person. So, those are my updates.
Perfect. Anybody have questions for Elise? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the planning staff meeting agenda that's in your packet. Anybody have questions, comments on that? Seeing none, items for future meetings. Uh-oh, Elise, you didn't put anything on here. What happened?
I am working on a list of possible zoning text amendments to give to the board at their September 19th meeting, and kind of categorizing them into low-hanging fruit, easy things to just clean up, and then larger policy conversations and things that should maybe be tackled more at a comprehensive plan update level next year before we get into the text. We have a lot of cleanup to do too with conditional use permits because of Act 67, and we don't really have the teeth that we used to with conditional use permits. So I will include that memo to you all at the October meeting, but we'll wait and, I guess, get direction from the board as to what they want to pursue in terms of those text amendments, and then work through those. So I just decided to stop listing them here on the agenda, and we'll wait and see what the looks like.
Now it's on a Post-it next to your
Yeah.
computer screen. All right.
Does the upcoming board's budget include funds for a comprehensive update of the
Yes,
comprehensive plan?
yep. So right now, we did ask Vanwall a couple of months ago just for sort of a range. So I have the number that's in the CIP is on the high end of what we could do, so sort of the Cadillac of comp plans and public workshops and all of that. So they'll be giving me a scope in the next couple of weeks, and probably through the October meeting again, go through and get some feedback from you all, from the village board. We'll also be updating the park plan, the park and rec plan, so get some feedback as to how in-depth we want to go, how much engagement we want to see. Do we want to have separate meetings for each chapter? There's a variety of different ways to go about it, and then we'll kind of narrow down what we want in that scope, and that'll adjust maybe that budget number that we have, but we won't borrow for that until May. So we do think that it'll take about 12 months for the whole process to update both of those plans and have it adopted by December next year. So that's going to be my goal, to get things rolling this December.
All right. Thank you for that. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by John, second by?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.